Radio. This is episode 20. My name is Dr. Christine Kaczmar from thedigestion.com. Today's episode is all things fitness and exercise. That's right, I have Fit Pro Inferno's Steve Delatorre. Stay tuned.
Now, the show where IBS stands for Improved Bathroom Speed, or IB-Swell. This is Smart Digestion Radio with Dr. Christine Kaczmar. And now, here's your host, Dr. Christine Kaczmar.
All right, so here we are at episode 20, folks. Come on! I'm super pumped about that. Some statistic I heard recently said that most podcasts don't even get past episode 6 or 7. So very, very excited to be bringing you episode 20. And on today's show, we're going to feature Steve Delatorre from Fit Pro Inferno. Amazing guy, super, super sweet guy. So that's coming up in a bit. But before that, just a quick couple of things. You know that's how it goes here. I don't know if you heard that, but that's a woodpecker going crazy on my little chimney stack. Sorry about that. Anyway, I hope he gets a mate soon because it's getting annoying. All right, so if you want to get my 10 tips to tame your toilet, so to speak, head on over to my website, thedigestion.com. You'll see it right there in the upper right-hand side. Very easy. Did you hear that? That was that woodpecker. Anyway, also, don't forget to join me at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on my Facebook page, where I will be answering your questions live. If you have some, I'm there to answer. And you could head over there by going to facebook.com/thedigestiondoc. Lastly, and I promise, head on over to iTunes and give me a review or subscribe to the show so we can reach a wider audience. And that's really simply done by going to thedigestion.com/iTunes. Super, super, super appreciate you doing that for me, helping to spread the word. All right. Let's get into today's show. And so today I'm going to talk to Steve about some really cool things, like the 4 factors of fitness. You want to know what those 4 things are? You got to stay tuned, but I'll give you the first one. It spells the acronym FIT, F-I-T-T. F stands for frequency. Later on, you'll hear the rest. We're going to talk to Steve about one of his favorite client success stories, how he literally saved this person's life from horrible drugs she was taking for diabetes and so forth. And also the 3 successful habits Steve believes you should possess. And I completely am on board and agree with what he has to say there. So without any further ado, let's get right into the great content with Steve Delatorre. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, everyone. My next guest is someone I met recently out in Arizona at a business event. And we kind of are in the same circles with some of the things we do with podcasting, communities, and so forth. And that guest is Steve Delatorre. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I am excited to be here with you and speaking to you again.
I'm really glad that you decided to come on. We met not that long ago in person, and you're definitely super, super in shape, which is what we're going to talk about today for my digestive audience, is the important piece of living a wellness-minded lifestyle, which is fitness. So Steve's his product is Fit Pro Inferno is his podcast, I should say. And you can check him out at fitproinferno.com. So fitness. There are clearly a ton of misconceptions. I mean, as a chiropractic doctor first, I know that there's a lot of things people are doing posture-wise that is just messing up their back. What are some of the common misconceptions you could run through about how people are doing things wrong in the gym?
Sure thing. Now, before I get into that, I just wanted to say for your audience, for your listeners, that you, Christine, were one of my favorite people in that house that we stayed at, because within minutes of meeting, you wanted to talk about poop. So I just thought that was so funny, and it was just so great hanging out with you and getting to know you. And now we're here talking. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for your listeners so they can kind of get a little chuckle at that.
Thanks, Steve.
Yes, so misconceptions. There's the funny thing is that the more advice that gets created, the more programs, the more books, the more celebrities jump on trendy fitness topics, the more misconceptions are going to be created. And since you mentioned posture, I think that's a great place to go to first. Mm-hmm. One of the major misconceptions, and I'll say in general, is that just from your typical Western type general practitioner doctors that they give to people, and I get this from my clients and have to re-educate them, is that the misconception that moving in a specific limitation, like squatting all the way down, lifting your arms over your head, running, movement in general is bad for your joints. That's one of the biggest misconceptions that drives me absolutely nuts, that doctors will look at a patient who has knee trouble, which is probably caused from their diet, right? And probably caused because they're sitting for so many hours a day. And the doctor, instead of looking at that, will tell them, don't squat, it's bad for your knees. Or the same goes for their back. Don't do this. They limit their movement and they limit what they want to do. I don't know how many number of golfers no longer golf because their doctors told them it was bad for their back, which it is, but you can do something about that through fitness. So I would definitely say, since you are a chiropractor, Christine, that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I have to deal with is to get people to not be afraid to move anymore.
Yeah, if I could just interject, because I completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, one of the things that always irks me is when you'll see, ask your doctor before exercise, as if any fitness professional is going to recommend that they go out and shovel 15-pound piles of snow, 30 million times. That's not what's happening. But yeah, I mean, asking permission for their doctor to go for a walk or whatever, it's just ludicrous. And so I can understand what you mean. Like, people are kind of talked into being afraid of moving. Yeah, it
is. And I have a countless number of clients that I work with who have been diagnosed with frozen shoulders, and they got there because their doctors put them in slings and told them, don't lift your arms over your head. And
Right.
through strengthening and through a balanced program of strengthening all the muscles of the shoulders and the back muscles, I've been able to help so many clients have full range of motion and strength through their shoulders where they once were told that they would never regain that again. So it is really incredible just through allowing the body to have free-flowing energy and blood flow through your joints and your muscles, how quickly your body can respond and recover on its own.
Yeah, it's really true. I have patients after patient that will say, because obviously people know listening that I'm the digestion doctor, we deal with Crohn's, colitis, all that kind of thing, and they'll say to me, hey, is it okay if I still exercise? And I pause for a second. I'm like, of course it is. As long as you're not running marathons, yeah, get out there and keep moving. I absolutely agree with that. So what are some other common misconceptions?
Let me see. So I would say, since you mentioned digestion, one of the misconceptions, or maybe not even misconceptions, but maybe complete blindness to, is that a lot of my clients and people that I speak to never really look at their diet as being the cause of how they're feeling. So many people are feeling tired and they have some sort of medical ailment, and nowadays, because there's so many medications, right, almost everything has a name to it. And so someone might have a restless leg syndrome and a restless eye and an irritable bowel syndrome and a third eye growing, I don't know, something, and they never tend to look at their diet as causing that. And before there was medicine the way we knew it, that's what a person who was in, I guess, the field of wellness would look to first. They're going to look at your nutrition. What are you eating that's causing this? Are you drinking enough water? Is that water, what temperature is that water? Are you getting enough of your nutrients? Are you getting in the sun? And so it's a total blindness to not even consider what you're eating before you go consult a doctor who's going to give you medication. So I would say that's probably number one across everything, that people need to start looking at exactly what they're putting in their bodies as a cause to how they're feeling, whether they're feeling great or whether they're feeling really, really bad.
Yeah, so let me get some more specificity out of you from that, which I absolutely love that misconception, because I completely agree. Undigested food, number one cause is going to be stiff, achy joints, because that undigested food has to land somewhere, and it's certainly going to be in your joints. So what are some of the foods you tell your people to avoid when you're having them look at their diet? What are some of the common things people are eating that you see as giving them trouble?
So the first overall kind of blanket advice that I give first is to start replacing foods that are processed with whole natural food. So that's kind of the number one thing first. So that could be if someone is drinking sodas or they're drinking juice, something that isn't water, if it's not tea, then I start there. And then I'll look at, okay, how much of their foods are processed? Are they boxed? Are they packaged? And we start replacing those with whole natural foods that are going to be naturally occurring. And this next phase from there might be to start looking at seasonal food. So it takes a lot of practice, and there's a certain progression in order to take someone who has been eating packaged foods their whole lives, and they only know processed foods, they know fast foods, and to take them to change their habits, to know that you can go to a market and pick things that are fresh and things that are minimally processed or not processed at all, and start there, because your body knows what to do with foods that it would find in nature. It knows what to do with eating fat from an animal. It knows how to break down fruit. It knows how to break down nuts. It doesn't know how to break down foods like wheat or cultivated grains. It doesn't know how to break down dairy. And so those are all the foods that I really try to get people to move away from, because I've never met a person who, once they've removed the foods that are like the wheats, the gluten, the dairy, where they haven't felt better. I've never met a single person, 100% across the board, people feel better when they do it, and almost 100% across the board, people are reluctant to do it at the very beginning as well.
Yeah, it is another shocking thing too, going back to the medical community, not to pick on them, but hey, I mean, I'm calling I'm calling a spade, right?
Right.
Is that it never ceases to amaze me when I'm dealing with somebody with irritable bowel or ulcerative bloody mucousy colitis, and they'll bring in what that medical doctor was telling them to eat after I've shown them what I want them to eat, and they couldn't be more opposite, meaning on the medical doctor's list of foods to eat is all sorts of things like pasta, wheat here, I mean, it's maddening. And it's exactly that food which is contributing to a boatload of their symptoms. So, yeah, I mean, it's really a frustrating thing. But I know the tide is turning. We got people out there like you who are helping, community all over the place with your great work out there in California. Jealous out here in Michigan. But,
well, you should come visit. It's beautiful.
I know. I really I got a bug for California, San Diego area for real. But yeah. So that's a huge misconception is what we're eating. So aside from wheat, because you brought that up, what would be maybe one or two other types of foods that you tell your clients to avoid?
So I would say, if I was looking at food to talk about that are absolute no-nos at any given point, those are going to be artificial sweeteners.
Nice.
So foods, like the Splendas, you have your aspartame and the different various artificial sweeteners that are made in the laboratory, which are just poison to your body. That's kind of number one. And it's really, really sad when I come across a client who is emotionally attached to diet soda or diet foods for whatever reason, where whenever you show them the data that they're consuming of this food is going to kill them so many years earlier, and the years they're going to live are not going to be good years because their health is going to be declining, that they still choose to go with that food. I mean, there's something wrong, and there's an addiction there. And so that's definitely one of the ones across the board that I suggest people never, ever, ever eat. I try to get people to understand that the foods like the wheat that we just spoke to, gluten, corn, soy, that the way we have them here in the United States, that they're genetically modified and that it's not the same food that people were eating hundreds and thousands of years ago. Because that's kind of the argument that I get when I tell someone is they say, well, Jesus ate bread, right? And I try, they say people in Italy, they eat pasta and they're not overweight. I really try to explain to them that it's genetically modified that is destroying the insides of your body. It's not the same thing. And so I would say that the two main things are anything that's genetically modified and artificial sweeteners, that those across the board are poisons to our body.
Yeah, it's true. The artificial sweeteners is a nasty, nasty one too. So those listening, make sure you remember the word sucralose, because that is the same thing as Splenda.
Yeah.
AKA poison. Go ahead, sue me.
Exactly.
Sue me, Splenda, sue me. But anyways, thank you for that. What I want to move into next is I want to talk about emotions, because I know for me, I've always struggled with my weight. It's just a clear fact. And I know for me, there's a lot of emotional entanglement there. So, I mean, you've been doing this for how many years, Steve?
So it's very interesting that you brought up being overweight, because since I was 18, I kind of stumbled into the field of fitness and had a knack for it. And so now I'm 34, so it's about 16 years I've been in this industry working as a fitness professional. And I also, during the first few years as a fitness professional, I gained 75 pounds.
Wow.
Not purposely. It wasn't that I was trying to prove a point. But I also, working as a trainer, I gained that much weight. So I completely understand the emotions attached to that, and the feeling and the pain attached to it, and also the attachment to the foods and the lifestyle that got us there. So I do understand that.
So yeah, so when you're working as long as you have, 16 years, and you have a typical, I'm assuming, are you more catered toward female or men? I'm assuming women, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I work with quite a few men, but
Okay.
they're the spouses and the husbands of the women that start with me first. So,
Okay.
but yes, I primarily speak to women.
Okay, and so what are you finding is their usual emotional hang up? What are some of that? I mean, because you definitely have some clues. What are you kind of piecing together as some trends here emotionally that's keeping women from being the desired weight that they want to be? What's holding us back?
Yeah, there emotion is attached to anything food related to women, 100%. There's really, it doesn't exist having the separation of emotions. And if we look at it on a level of physiology and just chemicals, the foods that people are eating that aren't good for us, the foods that aren't good for us, the fast foods, the chocolates, the sweets, ice cream, alcohol, all those types of foods create a release of chemicals, of peptides in your brain that act, that create an addiction. And so they make our bodies, our brains feel good, and we enjoy that. And so we create an attachment to that. So that's one of the things first, is understanding the physiology that when you eat some chocolate, right, there's an actual pathway that your brain is going to connect, that you're releasing feel-good hormones into your brain. And so it becomes like a drug. Your brain relates that to feeling good. Whenever you're feeling bad about yourself because you're stressed, immediately your brain wants to go to that food to make it feel better. So understanding that the physiological connection is there, that you've created it, helps tremendously, I find, for people to regain that power, especially for women, because it's really, I think, the biggest issue as to why so many people aren't at a healthy weight, and so many women especially struggle with this, is that we're under stress so many hours of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're stressed, when it's because of our relationships aren't where they want them to be, it's because of work, it's because of the economy, it's because we don't feel confident about ourselves. All that stress is causing your brain to be in a state of unrest. And in order to feel good, we go to these foods. And so it's, that's your comfort foods. That's where that comes from, is that those are comforting to your brain, to your psyche, to help you feel better. So I would definitely say that is, understanding that is a major issue, that you can regain that power back, so that that when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling emotional, and you might want to say, screw it, I'm going to have the pint of ice cream and the bottle of wine, you can understand why you're feeling that way, and you can do something to counteract that measure, because it's only in the times where you're changing your habits that your body can actually adjust to something else. So you can say, okay, instead of having this pint of ice cream, I'm going to go work out first, and then if I do that, I can have the ice cream afterwards if I feel like it. But just changing the pattern really helps the women that I work with overcome that habitual emotional tie-in to food.
Yeah, that's really an important one, is to, yes, maybe still honor the fact that you have this craving, which is the perfect time of year right now for those damn Reese's peanut butter eggs that are just to die for. But so instead of saying, I'm going to go work out first and then I'll see if I want the craving, which is probably not going to be there, but what are some other pattern interrupts to regain your power? Aside from working out, what are some other things to do? Like, for example, brush your teeth, and then you're not going to necessarily want to eat after that. What are some other quick things you could give us for advice?
So another thing, and because pattern interrupt is very important, And I call it just making little agreements with yourself. So I coach the women that I work with to have a list of agreements. And so that could be before you eat anything unhealthy, eat something healthy first. And then if you still want it, you can have it. And because when a lot of times, if let's say, for example, that Christine, you're busy, you have clients, and you didn't get a chance to eat, and the whole day you had planned in front of you, you were going to eat healthy, you had all your meals lined up already, you knew exactly you were going to stick to your plan. But now 3, 4, 5, 6 hours goes by, you didn't get a chance to eat, you're stressed because it's the tax deadline, right? You're busy all day long, you only have a limited time to get something to eat, and you've already missed 2 meals. Well, when you're at that point, you won't have control of your actions. And so by having an agreement with you where you can say, I have Taco Bell across the street and I know I shouldn't, but it's calling my name. If you can say, I'm going to have a handful of almonds first, and if I still want Taco Bell, I'm going to allow myself to have it guilt-free. By having guilt-free agreements, you're able to counteract the emotional part of it. And so it really helps so much more, because when you curb the hunger in this specific situation, you're going to be able to think and make decisions with a clear mind. You're not going to want to go Taco Bell because you just ate, but it's first calming that craze at the very beginning. And so that's another very important one that I coach my women through, is to always have some sort of healthy snack food that will become your agreement. I'm not saying you can't have this trigger food that you like, but you have to eat this first. And if you still want it, you can have it without any guilt whatsoever.
That's beautiful. That's really well said. Thank you for that. So I'm not going to let you off the hook on the emotion thing, because I guess what I'm searching for is, I know that you're working so closely with your clients because you have that relationship. They really look up to you. You're their coach in many ways. Have you found or identified some common past emotional traumas that lead to people who have a hard time losing the weight? For example, I'm just putting it out there. Have you found trends of people that have been divorced have a hard time losing weight? People who have been molested in the past. Have you found anything like that connected to this?
That is a fantastic question. I would say it's kind of hard to say because were you molested? That's of course not what you're asking, but I'm sure these people offer something up to you. Yeah, no, I do completely understand. It is a great question, and I know there is patterns because they exist in everything. Yeah. And I would say that what I kind of see as a lot of patterns is that there typically is a connection to when a person was a child and the eating, either they were like a chubby kid growing up, they had a weight issue, and a loved one was either picking on them or was always trying to get them to be better. I say that's probably a really major one that I hear about often, is that as a child, you might have a woman that, their parents were always telling them, oh, you need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. Only if you lost weight, you would have a boyfriend, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes kind of like a teenager who is counteracting their parents in a way. So I would say that's definitely one of them. I know that there is a big emotional component that is the cause as to a reason as to why so many of us say we want to be fit and feel fit, but most of us don't go through those actions.
Yeah. And back to you, if I could get personal with you, when you said you gained, I think you said 75 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, do you care to share what was going on with you, where that happened?
Sure thing. Yeah. So when that was happening, so I was like, I think 19 years old. So I was always a driven kid, and I played sports, and I played football, and I wrestled in high school. So I was always in really, really good shape. Mm-hmm. When I left high school, I became a trainer, and that's a whole another long story on how that happened. But I was working as a trainer. I was doing really well as a trainer, and then I had my first serious girlfriend who was a couple of years older, and her family was from the Philippines, and nice people. They were just wonderful, and they have a culture of feeding and eating and being very, very gracious in that manner. And so It was the first serious girlfriend I had, and at that time I would hang out at her house quite a bit. And it was just in not being rude first that I started eating these carb-heavy meals. They were almost everything had rice, everything was fried, and so I was eating there a couple times a day, and I started gaining weight. And I realized that I was comfortable, and I had a girlfriend, so it wasn't like I was trying to impress anybody, right? So I remember putting on like 15, 20 pounds, and it was heading into winter. And in California, I mean, it never really gets that cold, but we wear sweaters. And so I was wearing like heavier sweaters, and I thought no one noticed it, and I thought I could hide behind it. And for me, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put some muscle on, and that's what this weight is coming from, and then I'll just take it off. And I completely lied to myself, knowing that that wasn't the case. I wasn't even working out. I was eating. It was pure fat that I was putting on, and it was almost like out of nowhere. I stopped weighing myself. I stopped doing the things that were important to me. I didn't work out, and plus, because I wasn't in high school anymore in sports, I didn't have that accountability to myself. And then it was within a year I put on 75 pounds. And it was actually a lady that was my boss at the gym, because I was a trainer at the time, told me that I looked horrible, and if I didn't lose weight, she was going to fire me.
Oh my gosh.
And but she used some not so nice words. I mean, I kind of put it nice for her, and she was not a nice person in retrospect, but she said that to me, and I was horrified. I was horrified that anybody knew that I gained this weight. And it took me about a year to kind of lose it all. And I went through all the pains as if I never worked out again. I went through all the doubt. I went through the shame of knowing where I was and where I let myself go. I went through the ups and downs of battling with food. I went through all of that. And I'm so grateful that I was able to experience that, because I can now closely relate to my clients when they go through that now.
Wow, that's something. So just to be clear too about the high carb meals you were consuming, what was that, like a lot of rice, a lot of pasta? Share with everybody what you were eating.
So a lot of noodles. So the Philippine diet, they have rice with everything, white rice with everything. There was a lot of fried noodles. So there was dishes that were kind of like fried rice and like a chow mein. It's very different, but everything was completely fried, and everything was carb heavy. It was super carb heavy. There was usually every meal you would have a noodle dish, and you'd also have rice along with it. And so I was just eating, and I've always loved to eat, and I'd never say no. And I was eating there multiple times a day, and I was always at her house, and her parents and her family accepted me in, and they were great people. And I also stopped working out at the time. And actually, what I forgot to mention is that I actually was promoted to a manager position during that time, when I was really young, which added so much more stress to my life that I never had before. And so there's a huge stress component there too, with having the stress of having to meet the goals of the gym for sales every single month. And so it was the stress on top of the poor eating choices on top of not exercising. I mean, it was the trifecta that kind of everybody does.
You know what I thought you were going to tell me about why you gained that weight? I thought you were going to say because this girl broke your heart, but that's not.
No. After this boss I had told me how horrible I looked, I started working out, and within a month we broke up. It's like I had to let it go. It wasn't the right direction for me. She was a little bit older. She wanted to start a family right away, and I wasn't there, and I saw that it just wasn't the right place for me. So actually, I had to cut that relationship in order to save myself.
Yeah. For me personally, that's what helps lose weight is breakups. So
that's
always a good thing. You always lose weight during a breakup if you're like most people, I think, but maybe I'm just weird.
I completely agree. You have more time for yourself. You can take care of yourself. So I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah, truly. Okay, so let's move into this. What do you think are 3 habits of a fit pro like yourself? What are 3 habits that you are just determined, you have certainty, you never ever slack on? What are some things that you follow religiously in your world?
Okay, so one of the things that I share as far as for my clients, and this is kind of a mental imagery thing, is I tell people, imagine you're holding a ball, and one hand on one side, another hand on the other side. Your left hand is exercise, your right hand is healthy eating, your nutrition portion. So you have 2 hands on the ball. And I tell them, never take both hands off the ball.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because, perhaps you're not going to work out. You might go through times where you're really busy, you're growing a business, you actually have time constraints, and you're not going to exercise. That happens to everybody. It happens to me every year and a half or so. I go through one of those periods. And, as I was building my podcast, it happened to me. I just stopped working out for about 6 weeks. It's okay. That can happen. But the other side is, you might work out all the time and maybe you're just not eating healthy. Maybe you don't have as many choices. Maybe you're bored with food. Maybe you're dating and so you're eating out often. Your social life is growing, right? But you never do both at the same time. So you always are exercising or you always are eating healthy, but you never stop doing both. So that's kind of the killer, is when you're eating unhealthy and you're also in a period of inactivity. So I always tell my clients, never take both hands off the ball.
I love that. What would number 2 be?
Number 2. So number 2 is going to be that you have to keep positive relationships around you. So this is something that I constantly am always talking about to the women that I coach, is that even though it doesn't have anything specifically to do with fitness, but part of fitness and being happy and being confident in your body is having the right people around you. And when you have negative people and you have people who are driving you to be unhealthy, whether that's people who are smoking, people who like to drink too much, people who like to eat poorly, those people will never support your healthy habits. And so you have to create a bubble around you of support. So that's, I would say, habit number 2 is, rule number 2 is to have that support, create that support. And if you don't have it, seek it out. That might be joining a running club. That might be, finding a group of people that are doing a hiking group. You can go start ballroom dancing. You're going to find people who love to be active. So there's people out there. It's finding them and creating that bubble so that they can carry you to where you want to be.
That's beautiful. And number 3.
Number 3. Okay, let's see what we should name for number 3 here. I would say number 3 is that never look back, always look forward. That, we're all going to mess up. We're guaranteed to mess up. I'm going to mess up even though I know better. You're going to mess up. Everyone is going to mess up. Is to never be guilt-ridden. Always pick back up and just continue forward. If you haven't worked out for 3 months or 13 years, and if you've been eating unhealthy, and if you've been smoking, you can change that right now. It doesn't matter what you've been doing in the past. Always look forward. I have so many clients where they let life get in the way, and maybe I'll see them consistently for a year, and then I won't see them at all for 6 weeks. And they're ridden with guilt, and just let it go. It doesn't serve you whatsoever. Pick up and just start right away. So if you're listening to this and you're not happy with your current state of fitness, you're not happy how you feel, if you're feeling low on energy and you want to have more confidence on the beach or by the pool this summer, start right now. You can start walking. You can eat a salad for lunch instead of a sandwich. You can drink water instead of soda. There's so many things you can start right now, and you're going to start getting the ball rolling in the right direction.
Man, that's so fantastic how you said all those 3 things, which are all related to mindset and emotions. Really, I think that's that's killer content right there.
Awesome.
All right, so let's say I have 10 minutes, and only 10 minutes to work out. I mean, everybody's got time. Like, one thing about presidents of the United States, when they say they can go running, I think everybody else can find time if the president can find time. So let's just say I have 10 minutes to work out. What do you think is the best use of that time?
Absolutely. So I love 10-minute workouts. And so when you have 10 minutes and you're limited on time, and even when you're not limited on time, out of all the factors of fitness, so the 4 factors of fitness that are going to contribute to you getting results as far as how you stimulate your body, there's 4 of them. It's called the FIT principle. So it's FITT, and it's frequency, right? How often you're doing the exercise. It's intensity, how hard you're doing the exercise. Time, how much time you're doing it for. And type, what kind of type. That could be like biking versus running. Out of those 4 factors, intensity is the one that your body responds most favorably to. So out of all those, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, for how long you're doing it, or how many days. It's all about intensity. So if you only have 10 minutes, it actually plays in your favor to do exercises in short bursts. So a couple of the best exercises that you can do that you don't need any equipment and you don't need any space are going to be doing squats, body weight squats, where you're squatting down as low as you can go, bring your hips down below your knees like you're speaking to a small child, like you would squat down. So doing squats and doing push-ups, two of the best exercises. And so one of my favorite workouts when I don't have a lot of time is I will designate for 10 minutes. I'm going to say, I'm going to do 15 squats and 10 push-ups. And I'm going to go back and forth between both of those for 10 full minutes and score myself and see how many total rounds I can get. That alone is an amazing workout that seems so simple, but because you're doing them in short bursts, you can actually do them with good form, and you're going to be resting the body part that you just worked. So that's a great 10-minute workout that you can do that's going to get your heart rate up. You're going to use almost every muscle group in your body. And because you're working at a high intensity, that high intensity actually stimulates your nervous system and stimulates your muscles to burn more fat for up to, I think it's 36 hours after your workout. So the higher the intensity of your workout, think of your metabolism speeding up for a day and a half after you're all done. So you get residual benefits. That's the great thing about short workouts, is that you can go really, really intense. And think of it like you're sprinting 100 meters. You can do that as fast as you can. You're going to get the benefits of that much more than if you tried running a marathon.
Oh my God,
so,
that's so
yeah.
weird. You just said the word marathon. I just wrote it down. I wrote marathons, yes or no? Are you a fan, yes or no?
Marathon running overall? No, I'm not a fan of
You're
marathon
right,
running.
me either. That's torturous for the body. How about how about CrossFit? Yes or no?
So here's the thing. CrossFit, as far as the methodology and definition of CrossFit, it's a perfect fitness plan with the definition. The problem is CrossFit is now known for doing certain specific things because now it's on television. There's a lot of money in it. So now CrossFit is known as doing things like box jumps and doing things like burpees and doing Olympic lifting at high repetitions. What we know as CrossFit now is very, very dangerous and requires very, very good coaching to avoid injury. But when you think of CrossFit, the way they defined it when they first started as doing functional exercises done at high speed, for intensity, with strength training, that is a perfect mix of fitness. But you have to be really careful because you can get injured when you're doing exercise that you've never done before, that are highly technical, like the Olympic lifts, because you can get injured. So I like CrossFit, the methodology, but what it's turned into today, I know too many people that are getting injured.
Yeah, it's crazy, some of the things that you can see on YouTube videos. I mean, guys are just pushing beyond the limits, and that's definitely not for the average person. Okay, so I love these 4 factors: the frequency, intensity, time, and type. Let me talk about time for a sec with you. Is there a specified length of time for a maximum burn of calories for a workout?
No, because the higher the intensity, the longer, the better you're going to have that afterburn effect. So when we talk about intensity, when you're working out at a very, very high intensity, like doing sprints, like you're sprinting, let's say 40 yards, and then you're resting for a minute, sprinting 40 yards, resting for a minute, that type of high interval training is going to stimulate your body's afterburn effect to burn those extra calories for 36 hours. So because of that, there is no time that is the very, very best. It really has to do with whatever time you have available, that you're using it to the best of your ability by doing high intensity exercise. The body does better with high intensity, short bursts, short workouts than it does for long endurance workouts. And that's kind of like we talked about the marathon. Your body's much better at sprinting 100 yards than it is at running 26 miles.
So you're kind of talking about the concept of metabolic confusion, right, with this interval training, which is why you'll get like the lasting calorie burn?
Not necessarily, because with differing your routine, you're going to have a metabolic confusion there. But More so, I'm speaking to something called EPOC, excess post-oxygen consumption.
Okay.
And so that's the afterburn, is that because you stimulate your body in such a way, your nerve cells, your muscle cells, and most of your other body cells open up the receptors to take in more oxygen. And so because of that, you actually have a higher calorie burn, just as if you were fanning a fire. You're going to add more burn to the calories that you're consuming because of this high intensity exercise. And you only stimulate that EPOC or afterburn for short when you're doing high intensity exercise that you've not done, that you're not used to. But if you jump on the bike for 30 minutes or you jog for an hour, you're not going to get that because you're not stimulating your nervous system. You have to stimulate your nervous system and your muscle cells by doing high intensity exercises.
Okay. So back to the push-ups. Let's say I do 10 push-ups, 15 squats, and then I keep repeating for 10 minutes. Am I giving myself like a 30-second break after that, 10 and 15?
So I think the best way to do this is because the way to scale that type of workout to every individual, right, whether someone is very fit or someone hasn't worked out in years, is that you set 10 minutes. Now, your goal within that 10 minutes is to see how many you can do. Now, the beginner will do, let's say they only do 6 total rounds of 10 push-ups and 15 squats. But the person who's been exercising for a while, they might do 20. And so the great thing is that when you score and you keep track of those workouts, that you can measure your improvement. Let's say the next following week you do that workout again, and now you've done 2 extra rounds. Your fitness has grown and improved, and maybe even if the scale hasn't budged as much as you wanted, you've definitely increased your fitness by about 20%, and that is huge. So that's where it's really great to keep track. And that's a good way to scale any workout, is to put a time restriction on it, where as you get in better shape, you're able to do more work.
And so if I'm doing something like this, these interval workouts, which I'm a fan of as well, how many days in a week should I take off?
So what I generally tell people is that if you have a sedentary job where you're working and sitting for 20, 30, 40 hours a day, I recommend that people exercise or get some activity every single day, 7 days a week.
Okay.
I recommend that. Now, obviously, I recommend that because people are going to always fall off of that. If I were to recommend 3 days, they would give me 1 or 2. So I say 7 in hopes that they give me 5.
Gotcha.
But the more time you spend seated, you should spend more time being active. So if you're doing interval training, if you're just starting out, I would say 4 days a week is a very, very good goal. And then from there, you can fill in the extra days by going for a walk, going for a hike, which will help your muscles recover from those workouts and will also give you, get your body moving to just kind of get your circulation going.
I have a question about sit-ups. Are you a fan of sit-ups? And if so, what is the perfect form and style of doing a sit-up? Because I've heard people say you can do all the sit-ups you want. It's not going to do anything. It's an overall body exercise. And then I hear some people say it's going to target your abs. What is your take on that?
So an abdominal exercise for the idea that it's going to tone the section that we're working. So if we're doing, let's say, crunches or reverse crunches or side bends, in order to target the fat on that area, that doesn't happen. You cannot target any specific part of your body by working that area. And so you can really kind of think of it on the example of, let's say you wanted to tone your arms because you carry more fat around your arms. And so you start doing arm exercises to lose fat on your arms. Your body doesn't work that way. It doesn't magically burn a specific area that you're working. But crunches in particularly. Now, crunches are very, very basic exercises. And I like crunches because it is very, very functional. A lot of trainers like to bash crunches because they like to kind of come up with really complicated exercises that you need them there to teach you how to do. But crunches, when we're all laying down on our backs, when we're sleeping, when we're laying down, and you lift your head up to sit up, that's a crunch. It's functional. You have to have that ability, or else you're going to have to figure some other way to sit up. So because crunches are very, very functional, I like them as an exercise. And because they take a very low toll on your total energy, I like using crunches as an active rest. So in my facility, let's say we're doing the workout that we've been talking about, the crunches and the squats and the push-ups, maybe if you're an extreme beginner, we'll throw in 20 crunches as well to give you a little added rest. So this way you're actually moving and you're working without having to take a complete rest. So I'm a fan of crunches for that specific purpose.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of Turkish get-ups? Those are killer, huh?
I love Turkish get-ups, yeah. And more specifically because it's, we lose because we sit for so long. People lose the ability to move correctly. And when you can do a Turkish get-up properly, it teaches you how to maneuver your body so that you don't get injured if you have to pick something off the ground. And so it's a total body movement. You have to focus and concentrate. So I love Turkish get-ups.
Yeah, me too. They are crazy hard. But anyone listening, YouTube, search a Turkish get-up. But make sure you're not using like a 30-pound kettlebell or anything at first. Make sure you can do it first.
Yeah, or another human being, because there's a lot of pictures where people are lifting other people off the ground.
What do you think of kettlebell? I love the kettlebell. What do you think of the kettlebell?
I love the kettlebell as well. And but again, like anything, when you're taking an individual who's been sitting all day long, it's very unrealistic and dangerous to start doing a high speed, high technique exercise like a kettlebell swing. But I love kettlebells. I think they're very dynamic. They make workouts fun because you're doing something very, very different. And also it's a piece of equipment that really allows you to better your hip hinge, where you're using your hips to extend, which is a crucial movement that many of us lose from sitting for too long. So I love kettlebells. If you're thinking about using kettlebells, make sure you have a good coach who knows exactly how to use them, because too many trainers, because they want to use what's popular, they have you use them, they don't know how to use them themselves, and your risk of injury is very, very high.
Yeah. You know what? Why else I love kettlebells is because weren't they invented by the Russians?
That's what I hear. I hear that it's like it was a
Drago!
Russian thing first.
You know the movie Rocky, I could see Drago or whatever that guy's name is.
Exactly, Drago from Rocky.
Yeah. All right, well, man, this has flown by this time talking to you, Steve. I have all these other questions I want to ask you, but I want to end on one last thing before we wrap up, and that is go ahead and share with our audience one of your favorite success stories with somebody that you've worked with.
So I would say, I mean, there's so many that I can refer, but one that I'm working with right now, one of my favorites is there's a lady, her name is Carmen, and Carmen came into me because I had a special promotion for 14 days that I ran. It was a very, very low barrier to entry. It might have been like $14. It was a special for people to come in and kind of try out my services for 14 days. Someone bought it for Carmen, and when Carmen came in, she was obese, diabetes her whole life, her family history of diabetes, and she was just defeated. I saw it in her eyes. She had back and knee pain. She had all sorts of health issues, and Carmen's only in her 40s, so she's young, single mother, and so you can just tell that life has been hard on Carmen. And Carmen came in, I put her on the bike, and just to kind of talk to her, get her to move, and I can just see that she had given up. And I don't know what it was inside me, but it was almost as if I had an external message telling me that I need to save this woman's life, that things are not going well for her, that I can tell that her health was poor, she has diabetes. And as I was asking her, her questions reflected that she did give up, that, well, if she loses a limb, that's kind of, God's will, and in that manner. And I looked at her and I told her that her life is going to be cut so short unless she starts this right now. And I don't know what it was, but I was able to get through to her. And I thought she would never come back. Well, she came back, and I don't think she's missed a single day in about 6 months. And she actually, Carmen, she's a single mother. She has a job. She couldn't even afford my services, and I didn't even want Carmen to pay. I just wanted to help her because she worked so hard, and she has really shown me the heart of a champion, because she has not missed a single day, and she drives further than anybody I see to come see me every single day, Monday through Friday. She never misses a day. Now she even comes on Saturdays. Uh-huh. And she's gotten over her knee and back issues. She has free movements. She is no longer on diabetes medications, which, I mean, it blows my mind that the doctors had told her that this would eventually kill her, and she's just doing amazing. And so I would say that's just one of the amazing things. When you give the body a chance to heal, the body heals, and the mind as well. And we're so resilient, and all we need to do is to give it the opportunity. We need to move our bodies. Our bodies are very fluid. We need to be around positive people. We need to eat the right foods. And if you do that, your body can perform and be exactly what we want it to be.
Love this story. But I have to tell you, the reason I feel you were able to get through to Carmen is because you're not like a lot of trainers that I've come into contact with. I used to have an office in the gym, so I dealt with them a lot there. But there is absolutely zero arrogance about you, Steve. You are the most
thank you.
kind and genuine trainer I've ever met and talked to and interacted with. And so it really comes from the heart with you. And I can just tell it totally lit you up that you were able to give this woman her freedom back and have her to believe in herself again. And so I'm sure you've had several stories like that in your course of 16 years doing this. So that was really cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. I really, really appreciate it. And just like you, I'm passionate about trying to help people. And there's so many more people that need our help. And I wake up with energy to try to reach more people, because you reclaim your life back. You're not just getting healthier. You're not just looking better. Your whole life path changes when you just change a few things. And so that really, really drives me. So I really appreciate you saying that.
Oh, absolutely. It's well deserved. So speaking on that note, tell our audience a little bit about how we could connect with you in the online world, and then we'll say goodbye.
Sure thing. If I'm not in the gym, I am on Facebook. So that's the best place to find me. So you can, under my name, so it is at facebook.com/my full name, Steve De La Torre, and that's spelled DELATORRE. So there's 2 R's there. You can also check me out on my website that I have for my fitness business, and that is at PT-Revolution, and that's an actual dash, not the word dash, so PT-Revolution.com. And my podcast, where I speak to fitness professionals on how to better their business, is at fitproinferno.com.
Wow, well, that is great information there. People listening can also check out the show notes for this episode, which will be thedigestiondoctor.com/20. And Steve, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, carving it out to share with us your expertise in this area. Loved everything you had to say. I agree with everything you have to say, which is also nice. I can't always say that, but I really look forward to catching up with you soon. And again, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, and thank you for what you're doing as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Take care.
See, I mean, how can you not love this guy, right? Isn't he not the most kind, sincere, gentle-hearted guy? I mean, I really truly am glad that we got to have him appear on Smart Digestion Radio, episode 20. Thank you, Steve. That time just flew by. I couldn't believe it was already 40 minutes in. So I appreciate his time and sharing all of his expertise. And the thing that really stood out for me from our interview was just how involved mindset, emotion really is to being healthy, to being fit, to not being so hard on yourself. I love that piece where he was talking about, giving yourselves those little guilt-free moments, provided that you have these options of eating something healthy first. And if you still want the Taco Bell or whatever, you know what? The chances are that you're going to want that is far less. Going out and working out when you're feeling upset or emotional, always a good thing to do. So we can always use some reaffirming about what's right, what's not right, especially from an expert in this space like Steve. So if you would like to get the show notes from this episode, you know where to go. Go to thedigestiondoctor.com/20. And I would super dig it if you would leave me some comments about what you thought of this show and for Steve. And until I see you guys next time, be well, hug someone that you don't know, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you for listening to Smart Digestion Radio with Dr. Christine Kaczmar. Have the most beautiful day.